It's time to dance once again. There are some familiar faces and some relative newcomers, but it's madness all the way to the Final Four in Minnesota. The march to Minneapolis is next. With college basketball scout and analyst Adam Finkelstein, I'm Victor Howell. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the March to Minneapolis here on Your View. I'm looking for gifts on the floor. It's just that it's the best time of the year for college basketball.
Happy holidays. This
exactly
is as good
right.
as it gets.
Doesn't get any better than this as we're getting ready to take you down through the brackets and focus on teams in our Your View area as we get ready for the March to Minneapolis where the Final Four will be held this year. And right off the bat, we want to get to one of the starting topics that people talk about each and every year, Adam. It's one of those where you focus on, boy, if we expanded the field, we get 4 more teams in, or did they get it right? Let's take a look at the last 4 teams in and the first 4 teams that were left out of this year's NCAA tournament. Adam, as you look at the teams there, any problems with any of these teams on the graphic?
You know, I thought they got it largely right, to be honest. I can't remember a year in which there was less public kind of adversity than this year. The team that I thought was closer than apparently they were was NC State. You talk about their net rating, all their metrics other than strength of schedule, of course, but apparently they weren't as close as we all thought after that Clemson win.
Alabama and Indiana, both out of Potter conferences, both of them had 15 losses, so tough to put them in.
Yeah.
UNC Greensboro is an interesting one. Adam, I was on the call for their game in Baton Rouge against LSU, a team that won the SEC regular season title. They lost by 6. They lost at Kentucky, but their other 3 losses were 2 blowout losses in the regular season to Wofford, and then they lost to Wofford in the conference championship. Wofford's in, UNC Greensboro's out. It's not that they have bad losses.
Just no good wins.
No quality wins to get them over that bubble and to get them into the big field. Speaking of LSU, let's start with their portion of the bracket. We're going to take you right to this portion of the East bracket. This will be played in Jacksonville, Florida. LSU actually tips it early. There'll be the early game in Jacksonville on Thursday. The Tigers come in as the number 3 seed, and they will take on Yale, who beat Harvard in the Ivy League championship. They come in as the number 14 seed. Of course, LSU, I just mentioned, won the SEC regular season championship in Baton Rouge, got the number 1 seed, only to go to the SEC tournament and get bounced in their first game against Florida, a game that many people feel the Gators, with that win, got Florida into the bracket. But let's focus here on LSU, because still in all, there's been a cloud of controversy around LSU and what's happening with head coach Will Wade. Still in all, they win the regular season championship, only to go one and done in Nashville. And with that, we bring in Smacker Miles, who was in Baton Rouge when the announcement was made. And Smacker, I know they want to focus on Yale. They're ready for the tournament. But a lot of people want to know, what's the mental state of this team right now, having earned the number 1 seed, only to go to Nashville and be one and done?
Obviously, it's tough to have such a great regular season and then go to the tournament and not have the outing that you would hope to have. But that being said, this team is not new to adversity. They've faced a lot of great teams and overcome a lot off the court as well. So Coach Binford is really excited. They're looking at their season as if they're 0-0, looking forward to the tournament with a clean slate like everyone else in the country. So here's Coach Binford's scouting report on Yale.
Team out of the SEC,
They've had a lot of success. 2 years ago, I think they beat Baylor in the NCAA tournament, and Coach Jones does a good job. They recruited well there. They got one kid that's, I think his last name's Oni. He's a NBA prospect, about 6'6", scoring wing, a really good player. And they have, I think, 4 guys that average double figures. Another kid that averages almost 9 a game. So, and they play up tempo. They really push the ball. They want to get up and push the ball, get out in open court. They got a lot of experience. I was looking at their numbers. They are a very experienced team. Sometimes it's tough to change the way you want to play. They may make an adjustment. If you're averaging 80 points a game, it's tough to dial your kids down and say, hey, look, we want to keep it in the 60s. I mean, that's pretty tough, but we'll see. We'll be prepared. Whichever way they want to play, we'll be prepared. We're focused on us. We're coming back. New season. Hey, we're 0-0 like everybody else in the country. We're going to be focused on getting better tomorrow and getting prepared for Yale.
Last time LSU started their NCAA tournament in Jacksonville, they ended up in the Final Four. So this could be a very favorable seeding for them.
If they believe in history, like John Brady was on the bench then. John Brady's now the radio analyst for LSU right now, calling their game, so he'll be on the ride as well. Adam, really quickly, some X's and O's about LSU and Yale. Yale loves to run a lot of high screens, pick and roll. LSU has a lot of size. Yale's going to try to bring them out. I think one of the keys for the Tigers, how well do they defend what Yale's going to try to do on that offensive end?
No, certainly. Yale's guards, they're going to play multiple pick and roll. They're going to attack LSU's bigs, try and get them into foul trouble. Yale really confident in their depth, which isn't always the case when a high major faces an Ivy League team, but Yale is not your typical Ivy League team. And Mie One, he is an NBA player.
Yeah, get to know that name. LSU
Absolutely.
certainly will. If they
Yeah.
don't, they're going to be in big trouble when these
No
teams
doubt about
square
that.
off on Thursday in Jacksonville. More on the East Regional coming up, but let's shift our attention now to the South Regional. Let's take a look at that full bracket as we start with the number 1 team there, Virginia. Of course, Adam, they got a lot of history after what happened last year as being a number 1, but they're back. A lot of people want to know how long can they hold on to that number 1.
Well, ghosts of years past undoubtedly in their head. Going to be really important for them to get off to a good start against Gardner-Webb. But this is a different Virginia team with more offensive firepower than we've seen in years past.
Watch out for that 12-5. Oregon comes in as a 12. A lot of people felt like they had to win the Pac-12 title to get in, and they did. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're playing in California as Wisconsin makes the trip out west. Take a look at the bottom half of the Southern bracket. Yeah, it should draw your attention right away. That is Villanova with a number 6 next to their name. Adam, that's a team that's won the title 2 of the last 3 years.
It is, but this was a down year in the Big East. I mean, for Villanova to win both the regular season and the postseason tournament, super impressive, losing 4 guys to the NBA. But
Yes.
that is a first-round game to watch. St. Mary's Villanova, that's going to be top of my speed dial.
And you're also talking about a coach in the program that has experience. So if they can get past that first round, watch out. As a 6 seed, they might cause problems for a lot of teams. For more on the teams in the South bracket, we bring in Rod Thompson. He's out on the road already, getting ready for all of these teams. And we'll start, Rod, with your look at the number 1 seeded Virginia Cavaliers.
And I think when you look at this South region, guys, you have to look at this team, Virginia. They come in, Tony Bennett, of course, early exit last year, in that first rounder. But now this team is more mature, more poised. And, of course, they're thinking about last season. Ty Jerome is an outstanding player for them. Kyle Guy also. And then Braxton Key is a key factor. This is a transfer from Alabama. So Tony Bennett has an outstanding team, a lot of experience. But also they have that loss from last season, I think, that have them playing right now at the right time. Then you look at Villanova, of course, the defending champs. When you talk about Jay Wright and what he's been able to do, this team started off a little rocky in the beginning of the season. Now they come back. They're also in that South region, have some outstanding players, of course, have the experience. Watch that matchup, though. St. Mary's is playing extremely well, of course, beating Gonzaga. Talk about, hey, my Sooners, Oklahoma Sooners. You talk about Lon Kruger and what he's been able to do. A lot of people been back and forth if the Sooners should have got in. They have a lot of senior leadership, played in that tough Big 12 conference. Christian James getting it done for him, the senior, 14 points a game. He can really get it going. Also Brady Manick. So they have a crew of guys. Christian Doolittle is also playing extremely well for them. Tough matchup against Ole Miss. When you talk about Kermit Davis and the job that he's done in his first year there, taking this team to the NCAA tournament, a bunch of guys scoring in double figures for him. So that is a key matchup. K-State, when you talk about Kansas State and the job Bruce Weber has done, the highest seed they've had since 2013. Of course, Big 12 champs ending Kansas' reign there. A couple things you look at, they're also a team that are full of seniors. And you talk about Barry Brown. The question mark is Dean Wade. Had an injury. Is he going to be ready to go? This team is very explosive. 4 guys in double figures for Bruce Weber. Some of the other teams I think you look at, I think one of the biggest matchups you have in this region, Cincinnati coming out of the American against Iowa out of the Big Ten. Both teams playing well. Cincy, of course, winning the American with the huge win over Houston. They're playing some extremely good basketball. And then down at the bottom, Tennessee. I mean, this is a team that was won for a long time in all the polls. Had a little trip up against a very good Auburn team. Bruce Pearl very motivated, getting that win in that SEC Conference Championship. Hey, they're a number 2 seed coming in. We'll see if they'll have a hangover going into the tournament. But, of course, Rick Barnes does a tremendous job with his ball club. So, an outstanding basketball taking place in this South region. It should be fun. It's March Madness time.
Rod, thanks. More from him a little later. He mentioned Tennessee as a 2. Quite honestly, it's like a 1 and a 1A. The committee said had Tennessee beaten Auburn in the SEC championship, they'd probably be on the 1 line and Gonzaga would be out. So this is a bracket where you've got 1 in Virginia, maybe 1A in Tennessee.
Tennessee's overachieved all year long. Tremendous season by Coach Barnes. But the reality is they struggled with Auburn's pressure.
Yes,
they
they
turned them over. They got them out of sorts. And that's the reason they're not the 1 seed.
And a lot of people think they were also spent because they used so much effort to get to Kentucky just to get to the championship. But as it is, Tennessee is there as a 2. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, more on the march to Minneapolis. We will focus more on the East, and we'll take a look at the Midwest. And we're glad you're with us here on Your View.